The most extreme form of bereavement is parental bereavement, and I know firsthand of this pain after losing my baby girl Milli at just 6 days old. With no indication of complication prior to her birth, it came as a complete shock. We never got to see her eyes, we never got to hear her cry. As the weeks passed and we were riding the tsunami of grief, those around us expressed how useless they felt. They too didn't know that we felt so useless. We didn't even know what we needed, but I knew at that point that I needed to speak out. From Milli's life and death, this podcast was birthed. Little Life, Big Loss. As a safe space to talk about baby loss, grief, trauma, heartache, and hope. A safe space for lost parents to share their stories of their real-life angels. A place for our nearest and dearest to learn about our journeys and to gain a deeper understanding in how to help those who are riding the tsunami of grief. Welcome to Little Life, Big Loss. Hi there, Milli's mum here. My name is Rochelle and I am the creator and host for this podcast, Little Life, Big Loss. Whilst I hadn't planned on adding trigger warnings to the podcast, because let's be honest, our whole life and this whole podcast is one big trigger, I would like to preface a few things. Every episode I record could include any of the following: birth trauma, stillbirth, neonatal loss, termination for medical reasons, mental health, suicide, grief, and all things in and around all of this. Episodes might also mention living children, pregnancy, and pregnancy after loss. Please read the caption for a summary of what you can expect in this episode. The opinions shared by guests on my podcast are the opinions of those individuals and do not always reflect the same opinions of mine. We are not professionals, we are just lost parents sharing our story. If you hear of something that you wish to try for yourself, please seek professional guidance from a psychologist, a GP, or an OB. And finally, thank you for all the love and support that we have been receiving. I'm in love with this safe space that we have created for our babies to be spoken about in such real and raw detail. If you feel connected to an episode, please share it with someone that you think might help. And if you would like to help our community, we have created a PayPal account, and we are asking that each time you listen to an episode, you just donate $1. If you go to PayPal and you search Little Life, Big Loss, any donations to that account will help us do so much more in this space. Thank you again so much. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi. Good morning and welcome to Little Life, Big Loss. We are recording an episode this morning with a beautiful mama from Tamworth, out in the country, New South Wales, and Annelise is very, very fresh in her journey. Her little baby only passed away in the November just gone. We are currently in February, so she's not even November, December, January, not even 3 months in.
Almost 3 months. 3 months next week.
Goodness. You are so brave. You are so brave. And you're probably like me, where you just like, everyone's like, that's great. Because I think, like, I recorded my first one end of August, and that was only a month and a bit after Milli. So I think sometimes it's like, I just need to get this out. I just need to talk about it. So
yeah,
I'm so excited to hear your story. Is excited the right word? I don't think that's the right word, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
But I do want to ask, so as I start all the podcasts, I always ask, who was Annelise before she experienced baby loss? Who was Annelise in just October last year?
Annelise in October last year was incredibly excited. Ever since I've been little, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? And I've always said a mum. So, the fact that I'd met my soulmate and all that was happening, and it was just like, oh my God, it's all going to happen. And, and then for it to all come, it was crashing down, but also not crashing down. And I suppose when I explain why that, you'll understand.
Okay.
But we were newly engaged. We got engaged in September.
Yeah. And
we had just decided we were going to get married before she was coming.
Yeah.
So we were, in that October, like putting everything together, deciding what we were going to do, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of who I was before, just little corporate girly. We live in Tamworth. We were getting ready to put our house on the market to move somewhere quieter and bigger, and that was us just before Sophie was born.
Is Tamworth not quiet?
It is, but our street is not quiet.
Okay.
Our street's like a racetrack at the moment because it's not a super main road, but it's a main road in suburbia Tamworth. So
Wow.
We're looking to move another 30 minutes north, and it's just that little bit quieter, a little bit more land, and we were getting ready to put the house on the market for that when everything happened.
And so have you put that on hold for now, or what's happening with the house?
It's actually progressing and everything's moving along, and we should hopefully move in a couple of months. So we didn't, we'll get through it, but we didn't stop. We just kept going with everything.
Yeah. And wedding plans?
We're married already.
So when did you do it?
So this is jumping straight into it, but
Good.
We found out Sophie had passed away on the Monday, and our wedding was that Saturday.
It was already planned?
Yep.
Oh, fuck.
So getting into the story of finding out what happened, I had a scan for something else, and I explained on the Monday, get to the hospital, and they're starting to talk about when we're going to have her and all this kind of stuff, and then we just go, we get married in 5 days. So that kind of thankfully sped it up a little bit. But yeah, we still got married 3 days after she was born.
Wow. Okay, let's go all the way back to the beginning then.
Yep.
So talk about conceiving Sophie. Was it an easy conception?
No. Not that we've been trying super long. We moved here mid-2022 and we decided let's start trying straight away. We don't know how long it's going to take. I do have endometriosis, and I was kind of told you probably should start now. I was 31, I'm 32 now. And we just went, let's just start trying. I didn't heavily track, but I kind of was getting an idea. My cycles are quite short, sometimes 23 days, usually only kind of 26. So
good old endo life, yep.
Yeah, so they're quite short. So that was kind of July, August 2022, started trying. And then I did fall pregnant in March of 2023. Yeah. But that resulted in a chemical. Okay. And what was very confusing with that is I was getting these positive tests, and I had to tell Mark over FaceTime because he was still, he's been a truck driver for 13 years. He's just stopped. And so I had to tell him over FaceTime. And then he got home later that week and my period came, and I went, oh, okay, that's weird. But I'm still having positive pregnancy tests. And went to the doctor, which was the first time I was meeting a doctor because it's so hard to get a GP in Tamworth.
Okay.
And I walk in, I'm like, so I think I'm pregnant, but I'm bleeding. So I got sent to the hospital straight away, and they were like, no, your HCG is actually going up. Not at a dramatic rate, but it's going up. So for 6 weeks, we kept getting positive pregnancy tests, but not super strong lines. I was like, this doesn't feel like I would expect it to. And finally, I had 2 ultrasounds at 6 and 7 weeks, and they never found anything.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, were they worried at all that it could have been an ectopic at all?
Well, that was the first with the bleeding. But they obviously, when they then started doing scans at 6 and 7 weeks, and they said there's just nothing there. So we'll put it down to a chemical, move on. So then we fell again in, I think it's my last period was in May. So it was end of May I kind of fell. And I was strictly tracking that one. I was twice a day ovulation tracking because Mark is a truck driver. I had to, he was not home every second night. So you had to kind of did have to find out when it was, because if he was home for overnight, I'm like, I'm sorry, let's go.
I'm sorry. I love that.
So, and I remember Um, I remember probably the week of the implantation, I was so crook. I had the flu and I had a huge week at work and I was just really, really crook. And then yeah, we started getting the positive tests. And I remember I took it into Mark and he's so sleep deprived. I went, I think there's a line. He went, okay. And that was kind of, that was kind of it. And then, and everything was going okay. I didn't have too much sickness, but the line was getting darker and darker. I had my dye stealer. I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then at 6 weeks, I had some brown bleeding. So I took myself to the hospital and just went, I'm just not sure. So they did a scan and the tiniest little bean was there. And we even saw a flicker at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was upset, I was by myself. Mark was in Brisbane. And they said FaceTime him from the ultrasound room in the hospital. So he's there with his overalls and his big earmuffs unloading. And
he's like, is this the right time?
he's sitting there like this, like, what am I looking at? Because anyway, so then we had the dating scan a week later and everything was on track for Valentine's Day. So her due date is next Wednesday.
Oh.
So everything was going good. And then I told my boss at 4 weeks because I was crook and I had to either be asking to work from home or I was taking sick leave. So I told my boss and she spilled to someone else in our office, which is fine. And I'm kind of glad she did because one day I was at work, I was standing up writing on her whiteboard. She was on leave. I'm an executive assistant.
What did you do?
So,
okay, yep.
Yeah. And I was writing on her whiteboard, organising something and I went and I'm standing there and I just felt this gush and I went, that's not good. Ran myself to the bathroom and there's blood clotting everything.
Fuck.
And I'm like, oh, what do I do? And proper millennial, have my phone everywhere. So I called the other lady in the office that knew. She comes running in. I'm like, I'm bleeding and I'm hysterical at this point. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to find someone that's had a baby. So she went and found someone else in our office. Our office was small at this point. There's only like 8 people in it. And she came in and she just said, well, you can't do anything in there. Get out of the toilet. Let's go. And one of the ladies took me up to the hospital and she sat with me. But being regional, we still have a pretty big hospital.
Like, yeah.
We have a pretty big hospital, but like I got in, I said, I'm 8 weeks pregnant, I'm bleeding. I did rush and get blood straight away, but then we waited 5 hours for anything. And by the time we got to that, it was 8:30 at night and they said, we can't call in a sonographer, you're not urgent enough. You need to go home. What time would you like an ultrasound tomorrow? 9, 10, 11? I'm like, 9? I'd like to know straight away because I'm like, this is it, it's over. Again, Mark's not here. Mark's on a plane from Brisbane to Sydney.
Far out.
So I'm home alone that night. Took myself in thinking, this is it, it's done. Do the scan. And there's my little bean with its heartbeat. And I was like, I was talking to Mark. I went, look, this is going to happen. We're going to have to, I have an option. I want a DNC. I don't want to be awake, all that kind of stuff. So that happened. And then I went back to the office and I told everyone in my office. We hadn't told parents, friends or anything at this point, but I told my office because I was hysterically crying walking out of the office. So I was like, probably should explain what happened. So I just kind of called everyone and went, hey, I'm pregnant. And they were like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And, then it kind of, then we went, okay, let's start. So we went down to Sydney and put together little boxes for our parents. So little box that had shoes in it saying, can I have these back in February? With the little beam scan. And so I told my parents, Mark's parents, I got my niece and nephew big cousin shirts that they put on and then they walked out to the rest of Mark's family and all that kind of stuff. And then told my brother and his now fiance as well. And just started telling people. We had this little onesie that I got that Mark went, you're over the top for buying that, but that's me. And it said Baby Strawn, which is our last name. And when we started going to tell friends, I just would pull it out. And one, I was like, oh, can I bring another person to your wedding? Because they get married next month. The onesie. Telling my family interstate, FaceTime them and with the onesie and all that kind of stuff. So, but we had decided we didn't really want to put it on social media. So I told people that I wanted to, and then I would like post things in my close friends on Instagram to kind of share and talk and have that little bit of connection with my friends that weren't here in Tamworth. So I remember there's also the healthcare system. That GP didn't give me referrals for a 12-week scan, blood tests for a 12-week scan, didn't offer me NIPT. So, but first timer, I didn't know. And obviously things have changed since Mum's done it. She, you know, when Mum's like, I had 2 scans when I had you in 1992. Like, it's so different. So I rocked into my first hospital appointment at 12 weeks and they're like, where's your scan? Where's your blood test? I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like quickly rushing, going, you need to have an ultrasound like within 4 days. You need to have the blood test before you can have an IPT, but there's no point in doing it now. That was kind of the wording.
Right.
And I remember I went into the ultrasound and she was amazing. Like, I had some on and off ultrasound experiences, but my 12-week one, she was lovely. And I remember them going, well, I'm struggling to find the placenta cord properly. And she was like, 10, 15 minutes being like, I'm really struggling. And I was like, okay. Didn't think much of it. Went back to the hospital with the results and they went, yep, all looking good. All the blood tests have come back fine. You're low risk for that type of stuff. But we're labeling you as high risk because my BMI is too high, and that's a whole nother conversation because I'm a almost 6 foot woman and I'm 130 kilos, so they've put me at high risk. So
fuck.
That was I was frustrated, and I was losing weight in my pregnancy because I was so sick.
So sick.
With all day sickness. I am not one to lose my appetite, and I lost my appetite. The only thing I could stomach really was like Macca's cheeseburgers with no pickles. That was my thing. And I love pickles normally, and I went off.
I was about to say, I love pickles.
I love Macca's pickles, and I went off them. I was like, oh, no, can't do it.
I literally ate Macca's toasties, like ham, cheese, tomato. I know you're not supposed to have deli meat, but I would ask them to cook it twice. And I'd even say, I'm pregnant, can you cook mine twice? And then and an iced latte, which I still have most days. Iced latte, toasted sandwich, and some days I would alternate with KFC Twister instead. And like, I don't know if I've ever shared this on any of my podcasts, but Dylan and I were even through, how you were saying at the beginning you laugh if you're awkward? So when Milli was in hospital, at one point Dylan and I were like, maybe I ate so many Twisters that she thinks she's a chicken twister and she just was going to wake up soon and realise she's human. Like that was one of the jokes we were making.
Oh, wait till I tell you some of the ones we did.
Okay.
I think
I'm like, that's
we
kind
concerned
of
a few
fucking
people.
weird. Yeah.
No, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, so no, definitely. And so if I didn't eat those things, I was vomiting. It was the only thing that I could keep down as well.
My whole thing was I'd get up in the morning and I'd kind of have 3 dry retches and then I'd go. I'd have to try and feed the 2 dogs, the 2 cats, wet food. So when the rare mornings Mark was home, he's like, I'll do the food. I was like, thank God, just do it. So everything was kind of...
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're right.
I was about to say brushing your teeth even used to make me gag.
No. Everything was tracking along, and I remember I was struggling a bit with work just to, be all there and be, what I needed to be. And I did start, I think, asking to go to the hospital more. I wanted just hospital care. Finally, it kind of... 18 weeks, I got some consistency with a GP within the hospital. Yeah. And I remember getting the thing saying, you need to have your 20-week scan. And I was so desperate to save money that I was like, I'll book it through the hospital. So I kept calling and calling. They're like, we don't open our books until 4 weeks before, like, blah, blah, blah. Finally got through and I was like, okay, book it. 20-week scan, but I'm having it at I think I had it at 18 and 6 because my next hospital appointment was at 19 and 1. And you don't plan your hospital appointments. You get a letter in the mail that says, here's your 12-week and here's your 20-week hospital appointment.
Okay.
So I didn't have a choice in that. Anyway, I remember I did everything in my power. I said to Mark, I said, I don't mind if you're not here for everything, but I really would like you here for scans. So he, did ridiculous hours to make sure he was home for that 20-week scan, which was at 18 and 6. Anyway, we walk into the hospital and sit down and everything, and I lay down and I'm looking up at the screen and she went, oh, that doesn't work. I was like, oh, okay. Righto. Well, this is going to be, knowing this scan was a long scan too, like I was like, this is an hour. And I said to Mark, this is an hour scan, be ready. Anyway, but she then wouldn't show me the screen either. So for 20 minutes, we're sitting there just talking while she's scanning. And then she was like, you're way too early for this scan, like in terms of my weeks. I said, well, I didn't choose this. This is what was given to me. Then she said, geez, your baby's moving a lot. I was like, shouldn't that be a good thing? I know with these morphology scans that sometimes it's hard. And then after 20 minutes, she went, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right. Anyway, and she quickly turned the screen around and went, there's baby's heart, there's baby's head, there's baby's toes. Okay, see you later. And I walked out like hysterically crying. And Mark's like, it's fine. Like, her heart's, like, we didn't know it was her at that point. Heart's beating, everything's all right. Oh, we also asked, can we have a gender? She said, no, we're not allowed to do that. And I was like, okay, righto. And at that point, I was just really upset and annoyed. And we were going
what
to
on earth?
Exactly. So I went back to the hospital 2 days later for the appointment, and she said, look, we've picked up an issue with your placenta. So your placenta only has 2 vessels instead of 3.
Okay.
So that means that she's okay now. So at this point, I'm 19 and 1. She's okay now, but down the end of the line, we may have to intervene. We may have to go early. And I was like, okay, that's all right. If that's all right with me. Like, if she comes a bit earlier, that's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't really allude to much more. And I think they just said, well, just, keep an eye on you. And my mental health was starting to go a bit up and down. So I started to ask to come in more regularly. And we were going to Sydney for something or other, because that's where we're from originally. And Mark said, well, why don't we see if we can find somewhere that'll do a scan for you and we can just get the gender. So, because I really wanted to know the gender, because
I can't believe she didn't from that. Yeah, I just don't understand how she didn't from that other one. I mean, it's not hard to look and go,
just turned around
I see
and
a penis.
said, exactly. We just said, just tell us. We don't even write it down. Just tell us. But she was like, oh, it's hospital policy. We're not allowed to tell you anymore. And I was like, okay, it's not what I heard everywhere else.
Okay.
So we found somewhere in Sydney and went, well, why don't we invite our mums? Because our mums are never going to get to come to a scan with us living 5 hours away. So found a place, took our mums. They wrote down the gender. They texted it to my sister-in-law, and she was arranging a balloon and all that kind of stuff.
Cute. Yeah.
So popped the balloon. It's a girl. And my niece, who's on Mark's side, kept going, it's a girl, it's a girl. She's, she's sick. She's like, it's a girl, it's a girl. When it popped, I was like, you were right the whole time, because I thought it was a boy. I had dreams it was a boy.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm like 20 weeks, and I am plus size. So I was starting to get a bump, and it was getting hard, and I was feeling flutters, but they said, you've got an anterior placenta, you're not going to feel much. So I went, okay, that's fine. But I would feel flutters on and off, and everything's going along okay. And then I was 25 weeks on the dot. I had a headache, and I get migraines, so I know when it's, that kind of headache. Yep. And I woke up on and off, and it was here. It was back here. And my migraines are always here. And it was here. And Mark went, oh, maybe it's just the pillow. Like, switch the pillow. And we switched pillows during the night. And he went to drive. And I just went, nah, something's not right. I'm just going to overreact and call the birth suite. Because up here, I don't know if it's everywhere else, but here, until you're 20 weeks, you go to emergency. After 20 weeks, you can call the birth suite for anything. Okay. So, because I was 25 weeks, I called the birth suite and said, look, I'm 25 weeks, I've got an odd headache, and I'm just a bit concerned about it. And I was like, I'm overreacting. I really just don't want to go to work. But let's just go in. So I went in, and they didn't put the monitoring on me because they said it's still too soon, but they got the Doppler out. And that was the biggest thing I felt the whole. Oh, I know.
Okay,
They got the
sorry.
Doppler out, and that's the first time I felt her. First and only time I really felt her go, I'm here. Like, hello. Because they told me, they're like, oh, the Doppler will echo through to her and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, they did some bloods and just
So you felt her through the anterior placenta?
Yeah, but that was the only time I felt her kick that hard, just once. And even the nurse looked up at me and was like, because she kicked the Doppler, like the top Doppler moved.
Wow.
Anyway, I'd done some urine tests as well, and they said, oh, you got to. I had a hospital appointment the next day. They said, look, come back tomorrow for the bloods we've done. What do you want? I said, I want a medical certificate for the rest of the week because it was a Wednesday. And as I'm literally walking out the door, they came back and said, there's protein in your urine. We need you to do some more tests.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay. So went and sat down, kept drinking water to make myself pee, because at this point, I think they'd done a test on the first sample, then they went to take another one. She lost it. So at this point, I'm like, onto my third urine test. I'm like, it's going to be almost straight water. Like, there's nothing left in me.
Yeah.
So did that, and then after a few hours again, they went, okay, you'll get results when you come in tomorrow. So
remind me what protein in the urine means. It's got.
They were concerned about like preeclampsia and
preeclampsia. That's right.
Yeah. So, and high blood pressure, and I didn't have high blood pressure. My blood pressure was pretty normal the whole time. Everything was really normal. Like my weight, they were really happy because I only gained 5 kilos the whole pregnancy. And for someone my size, they were like obviously on it. So I went in and she went, yeah, we're a bit concerned about the protein in your body. Like it could be a kidney thing. And they said, your kidneys aren't looking well. Could have been underlying, and the stress of pregnancy has brought it up. So let's do some more blood tests, and we'll get you to do like a 24-hour urine test, and we'll get you to go for a scan of your kidneys and your bladder and stuff. I was like, okay, it sounds good. Booked in to do the kidney and bladder scan on the Monday the 13th of November. And things were still going okay. The headaches were on and off, but not too bad. I was still vomiting every day. And that Saturday, so 2 days before I was having that scan, I remember we'd cleaned the pool out and we were in it finally, because we have a pool that we've barely touched the whole time we've lived here, but we've put in the effort now because it's hot. And we were swimming around the pool, and I remember feeling her kicking me while I was swimming. And random side note, I remember I had to get out of the pool because my nipples were hurting so much, and I don't know why, but I said to Mark, I'm like, I got to get out, I got to go shower, something's hurting, I got to go.
Wow.
Anyway,
yeah.
So I got out of the pool and went and had a shower, and yeah, I felt her kick that night. And then the Sunday, I remember we went to bed, and I went, I didn't feel it today. And he went, well, we were told that you wouldn't feel it all the time. I'm sure it's okay. Mark's attitude is, she'll be right. So I was like, yeah, it should be okay. So the next day was my ultrasound, but it wasn't until like 3:30.
So you were feeling her kick prior to this? You had felt it.
I'd feel flutters, not like that big kicking, but I felt the little flutters that everyone talks about. And the Sunday I didn't feel anything. And the Monday, going about my day, I like specifically remember Mark was doing a day trip to Sydney. So he left here at 3 a.m, which means he was going to be home about 5 p.m. And I went, I'm going for my scan at 3:30. I'll call you afterwards, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I go to my scan, and I remember texting my neighbour's daughter. She lives down in Newcastle, and she was checking in on me. And I went, yeah, I'm just having a scan. They're a bit worried about my kidneys and things like that. And I go in and do the scan, and she went, oh, your bladder's not really full. And I was like, oh, God, I've been drinking like there's no tomorrow. And she went, okay. And I remember she did all the bladder scan, and then she did, get on your side, we'll do your kidneys, do your kidneys. I'm really struggling here to get some good pictures. I'm going to go get someone more senior. And this girl had done my morphology scan when I got it redone properly, and she was amazing.
Oh, you did have it done again. Okay.
Yeah, I had it done again. Sorry, I forgot that point. Yeah, I did have it done again. That's where they picked up the placenta issue. And she was fantastic. Like, you know, spent a full on hour. I got to see her on the screen the whole time, all that kind of stuff. And that private ultrasound place in Tamworth, you get all the photos put on an app for you. So like I had like all these scans of her, and they label everything, so I knew what everything was, because you know, to us sometimes it just looks like mush.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I go to my scan and yeah, did all that, and she brought in a senior guy, and he's like, I don't even remember his name, but I'm just going to have a look, you know, we're struggling to get some pictures. And then he just said, I'm sorry to have to tell you. And I just went, okay. And he went, your baby's heart has stopped. And I was like, okay. And then I started crying, but I was like, okay.
Fuck.
And then I'm like, what do I do? I'm sitting there going, what do I do? And I check the Find My app, because I have Mark on there, because it's just easier to see where he is. And he's at Murrundi, which is about 45 minutes away. And I went, I can't call him. He's in a fucking huge truck. I'm not going to call him and tell him this. And I was like, who else do I call? I tried to call one friend, but she was still working, and she's in a preschool, so she didn't answer. And our other friend had only a 7-week-old. And I was like, I can't call her. And then the other person I thought to call was my neighbour, and I knew she was interstate for work. And I was like, who do I call? And then I went, well, you've just left work and your boss's diary's empty. So I called my boss. And she's just like, hello. And I was like, I need you to come to here. And then I broke down. The girl took the phone and said, look, Annelise's baby has passed away. We need you to come down and get her. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just in like, I think I was still in shock. I was just like, okay. And I remember Jackie walking in, and she, oh, darling, oh, it's okay. And then they went, look, we're just getting the doctor's report together. Like, they're urgently getting doctors to write what's happened and get all the pictures. And unfortunately, all those pictures went to the app on my phone as well.
Oh,
but that's okay. It's okay. And
so you thought she was just taking pictures of like your kidneys and stuff? Like, did you think that?
Yeah, so they were checking my bladder and my kidneys, which they still did. But they did, obviously, when they scan your bladder, it's right near where she is.
Yeah, okay.
So obviously at the same time, we'll just check, and that's where they're like, there's no heartbeat. So yeah, so they're doing that, and Jackie's just sitting there with her arm around me, and Mark's trying to call me at this point because he knows he's almost home, and he knows I should have been finished, and I just hung up. I didn't answer it. I just declined it. Then I started going, Jackie, I'm going to vomit, and they got me a sick bag, and then I was like, okay. So they went, right, we're going to walk you out the side so you don't have to really interact, and you're not going to have to pay. I was like, thanks. Appreciate that. And Jackie just said, I'll just put you in my car. We'll leave your car here. And again, Tamworth, everything's 5 minutes away, so it didn't matter. I'll take you home. Where's Mark? I said, Mark's 20 minutes away. So she brought me home. And at this point, yeah, we're 5 days out from our wedding, so the house is just a mess. And we just walk in, and I remember I was like, do you want some water? I'm like, got Jackie water, all this stuff, because there's, a visitor in my house. I'm like, do you need water? Yeah. And we just sitting here waiting, and you hear the truck come up. And Jackie just went, I'm just sitting literally like here. And she goes and walks outside. And Mark tells me, he's like, I saw the Parado and went, that's not our friend Renee's Parado. I wonder if Annelise has got someone here, whatever. And Jackie just waited for him and gave him a hug and said, I need you to go see your fiance. And he just walked in, and I just went, the baby's gone. He's like, what do you mean? I said, the baby's gone, the heart stopped. And he just went, fuck, okay. Gets his phone out and calls work. Hey, how much do you need me this week? And we hadn't obviously told anyone except my boss, and then we're calling Mark's boss as well, and he's just been frank and just went, the baby's just passed away. I don't know what my week's going to look like. I'll do what I can to help, blah, blah, blah. But the truck's here. It's fully loaded. They're needing to unload, because he'd get home and he'd unload the next morning. And then we just sat there and so we have to go to the hospital now. That's what they've told me to do. anyway, so Jackie took us back to my car and we drove up to the hospital and just went straight to the birth suite. And I remember when I went to the birth suite with the headache, it took like 20 minutes for someone to come get me. This time I pushed the button, go, my name's Annelise, and they opened the door. They were there instantly. And they whisked you into this room. So it was still part of the maternity ward, but it was room 1, so it was furthest away. And there was a little bit of extra space, you could tell, between. And you walk into this room, and it's a normal birthing room from what I've seen from other things, but it has a butterfly on the door. So it is the room, and they did tell us, like, this is the room where people come to have babies that don't take home. And so we're sitting there, and I remember they did some bloods, and the amount of blood they collected from me, like, she's like, I have to get like 14, 15 vials of blood out of you.
Far out.
Because we've just got to test everything. So remember, that was one of the first things they did.
Were they testing everything to check like your health or to see what's happened to baby? Your health,
mainly my health, because of the kidney thing. Yeah, my health was going downhill, and I've now found out I was gravely ill, but didn't know really. Like, I just put it down to being pregnant.
Oh, wow!
My kidneys were shutting down pretty much. So yeah, which was just like. Because I was booked in after everything, like, oh, you'll go to a kidney specialist, and I was booked in for the 27th of November to go see the kidney specialist. So they did the bloods, and we got to the hospital at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and this beautiful social worker, who became our social worker for the whole experience, she said, I knew you were coming, so I didn't go home.
No.
And she just kind of sat with us, and then very quickly told us about the Bears of Hope and said, do you want this? So I went, yep. And she went and got it all. And that bear is obviously like sits on my bedside table now. And we just held it. And right at the beginning, when I was like just home, I would sleep with it and all that kind of stuff. So I remember them doing my obs, and my blood pressure was spiking. Not ridiculously, but they were like, it's high, and you don't have any history of high blood pressure. And then I'd gone into shock. So I was vomiting. I couldn't stop vomiting for 2 hours. And then the high blood pressure's going up. At this point, it's 8 o'clock, and they're like, look, you're going to have to stay. Yeah, 8 p.m. Yeah. Like, you're going to have to stay here. I'm like, okay. They said normally we'd send you home with a plan, but they said, look, let's just keep you here. We'll talk about the plan in the morning. Just try and get some sleep. I remember at one point Mark came home to feed the dogs and the cats because we just didn't know what was going to happen. So he came home, quickly fed everybody, and then came back up. And they got him a bed and all that kind of stuff so he could sleep. I mean, he'll sleep. He's been a truck driver. He'll sleep sitting upright in a chair. So but they got him a bed and everything.
Bless him.
And I remember him coming back, and I'm sitting upright asleep because that was the only comfortable position, because it just felt like, and like I have a history of anxiety and depression, but it was the worst anxiety I've ever felt in my life. I was like, I cannot breathe. Someone is sitting on my chest. And so they said, go to sleep. We'll talk about the plan in the morning. And got me up in the morning. And I remember my midwife, her name was Emily, and she just said, okay, so you're going to take a tablet now. This is like 7:30 on Tuesday morning. You're going to take a tablet now. It's going to soften your cervix. Go home, have a nice meal, have relaxation, call everybody, because it needs 24 hours to do something. So go home and relax. And we know you, like, we hadn't told anybody except our 2 bosses that this had happened. So like, go home, call your family, tell them what's happened. So they send us off I took the tablet in the hospital and we came home. I remember on the way home, Mark's like, what do you want? I want a fucking McFlurry, because you're not supposed to have soft serve. I was like, give me a McFlurry. And I remember we got it and I barely touched it, because ever since that day, my appetite has been non-existent.
Yep.
And we got home and we just kind of sat here and was like, okay, well, we've got to start calling people. So went to call Mum, and she was out doing something. And she's like, is everything okay? I went, yeah, just call us when you get home. Just call us when you get home. So FaceTime Mark's parents, and thankfully they were both home together, and we FaceTimed where we could. And that was the first time Mark had gotten a bit upset when he realised we had to tell our niece, the one that kept saying it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. And we're like, we've got to tell Lara what's happened. But yeah, we told his parents and then told my parents. And my dad's not one to get emotional. It's a lot for my dad. And Mum quickly showed me him on FaceTime with his head down. And that broke me, seeing Dad cry. And then, then we called my sister-in-law and said, what's happened? And we were like, are the kids home? And she's like, yeah. We're like, you need to walk away. And she walked away, and we just said, what's happened? And she's crying, Mark's crying. And just throughout the day, we called people. I was a bit distant from my brother at that point, and we just texted him saying, we need to talk to you. And he called, and he was in shock because they've got a now 2-year-old. So I think he felt a bit more now that he's a dad.
Yeah.
And and then just started calling people. I called my best friend, who's due next month. So I told her when I was 9 weeks pregnant, and she was secretly like 3 weeks.
Oh.
And when she told me later, I was like, you're kidding, you were at the same time. And we just didn't know. In our group, there was about 5 of us pregnant, the due, between now and May, just with friends and stuff. And it was just like, we just started FaceTiming and calling people. And I remember playing dumb a bit because someone called me from work. And because I was planned to be off for the wedding anyway, like from the Wednesday onwards. So, so I just was playing dumb with work because I was supposed to be working on the Tuesday, and Jackie just said she's working at home. She's at home today.
Yeah.
Called the celebrant for the wedding.
Oh my gosh.
And Mark just had to say, look, this has happened, and bless her, she got so upset, and she just said, you tell me what you want to do. And I remember us sitting in the hospital and said, we will get married on Saturday. We don't know where, we don't know how, but we will get married on Saturday. And I think with the hospital too, they were pushing for me to give birth on Thursday. And when we said we're getting married on Saturday, they pulled it forward and said, no, we'll get you to give birth on Wednesday. And so spoke to the celebrant, spoke to our friends all up here. And then I remember
we were sweet week, the happiest day of your life mixed with the worst day of your life.
And our wedding was planned to be very elopement style. So it was on a friend's paddock. It was marquee. It was a dress I bought online. It was 30 people. Yeah. It wasn't, the plan is to have our big party soon. The plan was like, when she's here and everything's settled and we've got a bit more land, we'll have a party on our new land.
Yeah.
And I remember that Mark's like, what do you want for dinner? I was like, Chinese. Why not? Anyway, got the Chinese, and I was like, that's the worst batch of Chinese we've ever had. It was so disappointing.
I hate Chinese.
And, I love it, but it was just like, that was really disappointing. Or is it just because of what's happened to us that we're not feeling it tonight? I don't know. Anyway, they were like, okay, so you have to be here at 7 a.m. So I remember the last call I made was 10:30 that night to my cousin in Adelaide. And by that point I said to him, look, this may sound really cold, but I have told this story 20 times today.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah. And he was understanding. So went to bed and got up at 6:30 to get to the hospital. We'd gone food shopping, well, not gone food shopping, but they were like, you need to bring maternity things, and I didn't have enough of everything, so we went to the shops to buy the disposable underwear, and we bought snacks, and then we went, let's buy boxes of roses for the midwives because we know that we're gonna want to thank them.
That's so sweet.
So I packed our little suitcase, and then went up to the hospital, and I was very open about my fear of cannulas and stuff. So I got in, and straight away they put numbing cream on my palm. And I remember they're like, oh, we're going to get the most experienced midwife in here. And they're tapping and they're tapping. And they're like, we can't find anything on you. I was like, yeah, that's normal. And in the end, it was like, they're like, oh, you know, we'll start you at 7 o'clock on all the things and blah, blah, blah. They couldn't get a cannula in me till 9:30. So they had to get the anesthetic doctor up with an ultrasound machine, local anesthetic, to get a cannula in.
What?
Yeah.
Like you don't have visible veins?
I've got visible. I've got visible veins, but they're very deep. So they ended up trying to put one in this forearm. I had the biggest bruise for 3 weeks from that, and then they got it in this arm, and so that delayed it a little bit. And they said, okay, so 9:30, right? We're going to start your induction now. So my induction was the tablets that you put in your mouth. So you have these 2 tablets. They're like Panadol, and you rub them inside your cheek, and they dissolve.
Okay.
So you're sitting there like this, and it takes 15, 20 minutes, and I'm just sitting there.
What?
Like this.
Wow.
My hand in my mouth trying to rub it against. Anyway, so they dissolved. So they gave me 4 at the beginning, and they said, you're going to do 4 doses every 2 hours, or I think 2 or 3 hours. And I remember, so it was like 9:30, the first one came along. Mark had gone back to sleep. And then they came back at 12-ish and went, okay, let's do it again. And at that time, I FaceTimed Mum and said, this is how it's happening, blah, blah, blah. Because obviously Mum had perfect pregnancies, pretty much. I remember at the hospital them saying, how was your mum's pregnancies? I went, textbook, you know. But she had a miscarriage between me and my brother, so I was just explaining things. I'm like, yeah, this is how them getting induced and blah, blah, blah. And Mark had gone to get me KFC because they were in the hospital. They were like, whatever you want, whoever you want, any time of day, you're allowed it. So you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to not eat food. Here's the kitchen, there's the water, there's the ice, help yourselves. And yeah, he'd gone and got me KFC. And I remember he came back and I was like, I think I'm starting to have contractions. So this is like 12:30. And I'm on the phone to Mum too. And when I started pulling this face, she went, yeah, I think you're having them. So they were about 7 minutes apart.
And because baby was 20, you were 25 weeks.
I was 27 weeks that day on the dot.
Oh, wow. Oh, because you had the headache at 25 weeks.
She died we think she died on the Sunday. So like she would have been like 26 and 4 days when she died.
Okay.
But I gave birth at 27 weeks on the dot.
Yeah.
But this is when I remember. Do they? So you birthed at 27 weeks, but they think, or like were they able to test? So I was 27 weeks. The ultrasound place on the Monday had actually done measurements of her, and she was only the size of 22. She'd stopped growing a long time ago.
Oh, so she stopped growing at 22 and they think she died at 26 and then you birthed her to... Fuck.
So she'd stopped growing a long time ago and she was disproportioned. So I remember they'd left the report out, so I snuck a look at it and it was all these different, 22, 20, 21 week measurements. But her heart kept going. So every time I'd go to those hospital appointments because of my anxiety and my mental health and the kidneys, I will just quickly scan for her heart. So her heart, I heard her heartbeat 2 days before she died. So
have you listened to my podcast about Milli's story?
I haven't listened to yours directly yet.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that frustrates me the most is that every time we went in for reduced movements, they were like, her heartbeat's perfect. And she did. She always had a perfect heartbeat until day 6 when she went into cardiac arrest.
Well, I was due for my next scan the following Monday. So I would have had another scan at 28 weeks. Because at this point they went, you're going to have scans every 4 weeks. Because of your placenta issue, we need to monitor her growth. Her growth pretty much stopped when we identified the placenta issue. And I remember my belly not getting bigger one of the weeks because they did the measurements and my belly didn't get bigger one of the weeks. And that was probably the last week. So, And I also remember going to the toilet panicking because I'd gotten diarrhea, and I was like, oh, I had really bad Chinese last night. And they're like, no, the tablets give you that. Sorry, we should have told you. And I was like,
part of labour,
so
I guess.
I'm panicking, going, she's going to fall out of me. She's tiny. They put this little thing in there, like into the toilet, so that they're like, if something happens, we'll catch her. It'll be okay. I was like, okay, thank you. So yeah, and then I remember Emily had to leave the midwife, and we were so upset because she was off the rest of the week. And we really wanted her to be around because she was just really good. And she came in at like 3:30, and I'm up doing the whole moving and swaying. And she's like, look, I know it doesn't feel like it's progressing, but you're progressing, and we're really happy with you, with what you're doing. And she's like, but I have to leave. And she burst out crying, and she went, I don't want to leave, but I have to. And we gave her a box of chocolates, and that made her cry even more. And she went, I'll have a drink for you this weekend, because she's like, I'm going away, but I'm going to have a drink for you. And I was like, please do, because don't worry, I'll be having all the drinks when I'm allowed. And then I remember the next midwife coming in. Her name was Mandy. And everyone I talked to, I said, have you done this before? And everyone said no. No one had, because we're regional, I understand that, but they're like, no, we haven't done a stillbirth before. My social worker had never done it before.
Wow.
But when Mandy came in, I'm like, so have you done this before? She went, I'm a bereavement specialist.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So had another dose thingy at 4, and then had another one at 7. And I'm sitting there at 7 o'clock going, oh my God, it's like, we need to get moving. Like, I have to.
So this was 7 p.m.
7 p.m. on the Wednesday.
Hours. Yeah.
I'd been in the hospital for 12 hours. I think my labour started about 12:30. My active labour, then we kind of started about 8 p.m. So I remember I couldn't eat or anything. And Mark was on the phone. We were FaceTiming Mum and Dad, and Mark just went, I think she's getting closer. Like, I just started going downhill, and I was groaning, and I was moving all over the place. And yeah, that was around 8 o'clock. And that's when, and what I'm grateful for is I have a lot of sensitivity down there, quite tight, all that kind of stuff. And I was terrified about getting checked and all those type of things. Not once did they say, we need to check you. They just let me do what I needed to do. And I remember at 8 o'clock, she was like, okay, I can see just physically you're starting to progress. And I feel like I'm going all over the shop.
No, that's fine.
But they had also said to me, what are your wishes with everything? And we said, okay, we don't want to see her when she comes out. I don't want skin to skin, knowing that she's going to be disproportioned, and I just didn't want to see that. So they said, okay, that's your wishes. So we just said, give us whatever you need, whatever paperwork you need done, can we do it now? We want to do everything before she's here, so that when it's done, we can leave as soon as possible. So we said, yep. They brought in everything, decided we want to cremate her, decided all that kind of stuff, and did everything we needed to. Chose her name because I'd reached out to a friend who had stillborn twins just before COVID, and I said, this is what's going on, and I don't know how to react. And she said, you call me whenever, but my first piece of advice is if you have a name, let's start using it.
No.
So when we walked into the hospital on that Wednesday, I said, her name is Sophie. I'd like to start using it. And Emily went, okay, we're going to birth beautiful Sophie today. And they wrote it up on the board. They still wrote the whole dad, Mark, mum, Annelise, baby, beautiful baby Sophie, and all that kind of stuff. So they kind of, that was all our wishes and stuff. And the nurses knew before they came in to look at our wishes. So, 8 o'clock comes around and I open my legs up, they put the light down, and she went, I can just see you're getting there. So, and my contractions are now 2-3 minutes apart, and I keep looking over at Mark going, are you okay? And he's like, I'm fine, are you okay?
Bless
he's
him.
like, I'm a passenger, like, are you
You're
okay?
driving the truck.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. And they'd also said, they're like, we recommend the epidural. so that you don't feel anything. Again, needle phobia, I wasn't really keen on it. So I just left it and I went, no, you know, I'm going to do this. I'll do this. And then they said, oh, we can give you some stuff through your cannula when you're ready, that you push a button every 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I got to 8:30 and I said, I'm ready for that. I want that. So I do have, I feel like I have a high pain threshold. Like I will like wimp out when I have a headache, but like I had double knee reconstructions with barely any pain relief when I was 15. So I do have like that kind of like, don't do it until you're desperate to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I said, can I have some pain relief now? And they went to get the gas out and I remember them turning it on. They're like, breathe in, we just got to check if it's working. Oh, it's not on yet. Okay. And then we all got distracted and I never went back to the gas. So it was all set up, but I never used it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then it was starting to be like, okay, let's try some pushing and let's see how we go and blah, blah, blah. And then I remember one midwife came in and she's like, do you want to take your top off so that you can put baby on you? And all three of us just went, no. And we were like, no, that's not part of the plan. And she went, oh, okay, righto.
Oh, wow.
So push,
Get on board,
push,
lady.
Push. 11 p.m. comes along and I finally push out a leg. And I was like, they're like, she's breached.
Fuck.
I'm pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
And I felt that pop of like the body, like, you know, I felt it and I was like, oh, that's something different. And then she goes, oh, that's a leg. And we all just burst out laughing. Like, of course she's breached. Why wouldn't she be breached?
So did they not scan? Like, this is what blows my mind. Why the fuck did they not scan a belly before?
No, they just went off. They literally went off the kidney and bladder scan, but yep, she's passed away. That's it.
Fucking stupid. Anyway.
And there was, I just remember getting to the hospital being like, just put me to sleep. Just put me to sleep. I don't want to do this. Just put me to sleep. And they're like, we can't put you to sleep. And, yeah, I popped out a leg. And then I remember popping out more. And for 20 minutes, her body was hanging out. But what's happened is because she's breached, but also her head was like this, like tilted up to the sky. So she was looking up.
If she was alive, that's why they wouldn't. So that if she was healthy, they wouldn't have let you birth vaginally breech because of their head gets caught like that.
So her head was caught.
Bless.
So after 20 minutes of pushing, just sitting down, she went, I need some gravity. We need something. She's like, can you get up on your knees? And because of my knee reconstructions, I can't kneel for long periods of time. I'm like, not really. And we're both terrified. I'm like, we don't want to see her. We don't want to see her. And eventually she went, okay, Mark, come over here. So Mark went on the other side of the bed. And I got up on him and put all my might into him with a leg up on the bed to push her out. So I'm pushing down into the ground. And at 11:25 p.m, this little pop goes. She popped out. They caught her. And then all this blood and everything, obviously, that comes with childbirth came out. And everyone just burst out laughing. Because everyone was covered in every type of liquid. We all just burst out laughing. Mandy's covered. Her whole beautiful, scrub's got blood all over it. Mark's got blood and crap all over his leg, and he just threw his thongs off over the other side of the room. And we just burst out laughing, and we just went, okay, she's here. Okay, she's here.
What a dramatic entrance.
Very dramatic.
Oh, my word. So could they not help and, could they not pull her out because of the way her head was?
The way her head was and her being so delicate. I remember Mandy was putting her hand up in there. While I'm pushing, she's putting her head in there to try and navigate her little head down. So they did that. They took her out, put me back on the bed and went, righto, you've got to do the placenta. I was like, yeah, I know all that. Gave me the shot. And after a while, the urge to push it out was starting to come back and stuff. So I'm trying that. And then after 20 minutes of trying that, nothing. She went, why don't you go sit on the toilet? That might help, with the gravity again. And at this point, it's midnight, and I FaceTime Mum because
course.
Our families are like, do you want us to come up? And we went, look, you're coming up in a few days anyway. Don't bother coming up early. We just want to do this ourselves. But, you know, we'll call you and stuff like that. But yeah, FaceTime mum at midnight, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on the toilet birthing my placenta. She's like, okay. And,
why else would I be FaceTiming you right now?
What else would I be doing? Dad had gone to bed, and she was just sitting up, just wanting to know obviously what's going on.
Of course.
And I was sitting on there for ages and nothing happening. They put me back on the bed and went, okay, we've got to get the doctor now in, all that kind of stuff. Mark has gone to sleep, out like a light, which is fine.
Bless him. Yep.
I didn't mind. I was like, I've got mum on the phone. He slept. The doctors come in. I'm like, yeah, okay, righto. And they're trying to play around, and I'm pushing. I'm screaming I'm screaming more than when I was giving birth. Mark slept through the whole thing. I remember the doctor coming in being like, okay, we're going to put in the catheter. And I was like, I was terrified of that. And it wasn't as horrible as I expected, but it was something that I was like,
you don't even feel
really?
It. Yeah.
So I had my feet up. I had Mandy physically pushing my stomach, and I had a doctor with her hand in me trying to pull the placenta.
Oh, you poor thing.
Nothing. And at 1:30 they went, that it's 2 hours later. That's enough.
It's too dangerous. They have to get it out.
Like, we've got to get it out. So again, being regional, we've got to call in everybody to come here, which is
far out.
Everyone lives
at 1:30 in the morning.
1:30 in the morning. Everyone lives within a 20-minute radius anyway. So they prepped me for surgery, and I remember going, Mark, wake up. I'm going to surgery. And he's like, okay, you all right? I went, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. See ya. That was it. He went back to sleep. And he told me
when
later on.
When you say surgery, what do they do to remove a placenta? Like,
so
what kind
I had
of
a D&C.
Okay.
Pretty much had a D&C. I remember them saying, you know, if there's issues with your placenta, we'll probably take you to surgery and you'll have a D&C to get it out. So they wheeled me down, and I just remember telling everyone, I'm so sorry I had to wake you up.
No, yeah.
And I remember before I went down to, Mandy said they will push just to do a spinal tap. If you don't want a spinal tap, you don't get a spinal tap. You ask to go to sleep.
Okay.
And when I got down there, the anaesthetic doctor kept going, oh, we'll just do a tap. I went, no, you will put me to sleep. I've been awake since 6 a.m. I have birthed my child who has passed away. I do not want to be awake. I want to go to sleep.
Yep.
And at this point, they're also worrying. They're like, well, we don't know if your cannula's okay. And I was like, I don't care. Work it out. I want to go to sleep.
Bless Mandy for being there and being such a good support for you as well.
Oh, it's just, and like while we're sitting there in between contractions, she was like, oh, I'll show you this. And she pulled up a little butterfly urn because we started talking about butterflies. And she went, oh, you know, I've seen people do this before for their lost babies. And so Sophie is in this butterfly urn that when I posted a photo on Facebook, I said Sophie's home, and people didn't realize that that was an urn, because it just looks like a little decor piece, but it's her urn and it's beautiful, and she was showing us and stuff like that. So it was very
sorry
special.
I lost you for a second. Then repeat that bit where you said you posted on socials about the urn.
And people didn't realise it was a butterfly, that it was an urn, because it looks like a home decor piece. So I'm very grateful we had Mandy there as a bereavement specialist too.
Every hospital needs a Mandy, I think.
Because they were talking about, you know, we had to say, do you want, what kind of autopsy do you want, and all those type of things, and which we've opted for a full autopsy, which we haven't got the results on yet, obviously, because it's still too soon. So I went down to surgery, went to sleep, came back up about 4 o'clock. They'd fixed up the room. Mark was in a bed again. Went to sleep and woke up at 7 because there was no curtains in the room, so sunlight just kind of woke you. And I remember them coming in, and they just said, your placenta was stuck. You would have never birthed it.
Wow.
Because my body was only 27 weeks pregnant, it was like, no, not time to release placenta. No. So my body was holding the placenta. So
body.
Yeah, so that's why I couldn't birth it. And they went, there was no way. It was a mess in there.
Wow.
So they did that, cleaned me out, in a way. And in a way, they were like, obviously you're going to bleed and stuff. But I didn't bleed to the level I expected because I got cleaned out.
Do you, so did they end up putting you to sleep? Or?
Yeah.
No,
I was like, put me to sleep, and they took me in. They got the whole cold thing when you go into the room, and I went to sleep. And I just remember waking up, and I was a bit agitated, but then I was back in my room, and I just went to sleep till the sun came up, and then that's when they came in and told us the placenta was never coming out of you. I was like, okay, it wasn't just me not being able to do it. It was stuff. So at this point, I remember I spoke to someone or other, maybe my uncle or something, and they were like, when you're ready, we'll bring Sophie in. And I said, well, I haven't had a shower in all of this. I'd like to have a shower. And I still have a catheter and everything. So they were like, okay, well, we'll help you shower. And did that, and we cleaned the room up. And at about 8:30, that's when we were all ready, and they brought her in. And so she weighed 510 grams, I think it is.
Oh, little honey.
She was 30 centimeters long. But then, she was way underweight for what she should have been.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what she should have been, but she shouldn't have been 500 grams at 27 weeks. And I remember that we had, I don't remember if Mandy was still there or not. I had this other beautiful student midwife, her name's Kaylee. And she was there from Monday to, I ended up being in hospital till Friday. She was there every day. And I remember Kaylee took my phone and she took a couple of photos of us together.
Oh, go Kaylee. That's clever.
And then they just said, right, we're going to leave you and you push the buzzer when you're ready.
Yeah.
And we just sat there. And then Mark kind of went and sat by himself and I just sat with her. And I just remember looking at her and I was like, her nose was perfect. Her nose was perfect. Her mouth was cute, but they'd started drooping a little bit too, obviously. And but I just remember how heavy her head was. It was interesting. It was like you still have to support her head, even though she's not with us. You still have to, because if you didn't, it was just gonna. So I remember just being like, and when I went to hand it to Mark, I went, support her head.
No.
And Mark's not one to get very emotional, and he obviously just cried a lot. And I just remember sitting there looking at her and saying, I'm sorry. I just looked at her and kept saying, I'm sorry, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest bit, was just telling her that.
Yeah.
So after half an hour, we pressed the buzzer and they came and took her. And we thought that was it. We thought, okay, we've done everything, she'll leave now.
Yeah.
And we found out later on that they actually kept her there another whole day because they kept asking me again, do you want to see her? Do you want to see her? So that's Thursday and it's like 10 a.m. And I remember Mark, so then the wedding stuff was then all in full gear.
So crazy.
The Wednesday I was supposed to get my hair done. I was supposed to get my nails done. I was supposed to get my lashes done. But Thursday I'd already organised everything. So the marquee was getting delivered to our friend's house, which is 40 minutes away from here.
Fuck.
So he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm okay. And I was like, I'll just call people during the day. And he went up to Manila and checked the marquee was delivered okay and everything. And he came home to check on the animals and stuff like that. And he just said there was flowers everywhere. There was letters in the letterbox. We found out later our friends had jumped the fence to check on the dogs.
Oh, bless. I know. And you just forget you even have a life, right? Like, because we have two dogs and a cat. And our friend was minding our dogs because we were going into the private hospital and we knew we were going in to birth our baby anyway and expected to just be there for 5 days and then come home.
Mm.
And after a week in hospital, you're like, I forgot we even had a house. I forgot we owned dogs. I forgot about everything outside of the four walls of a hospital.
Oh, our house looked like a bomb had hit it for like 2 weeks. Like,
Mm.
it was just, and like for me, like physically, I was recovered very quickly. I had no tearing or anything like that.
Right.
I had my waddle on because I had the pelvic floor issues. So, I had a lot of pelvic issues.
My waddle on.
I still waddled for about a week afterwards. But physically, I like recovered quite quickly. So Mark was out and about doing stuff, and I'd said during it I wanted that Bilson's advent calendar now that I could drink, and because they put out an advent calendar, it was a different vodka every day, and I was like, I can drink now. I want that. Didn't tell anyone, but our friends that jumped the fence just went and bought it for me anyway.
No.
So that was on our fridge. And backtracking a little bit, when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm due in February. Okay, cool. 3 weeks later, Taylor Swift announces her tour.
Oh, yeah.
When I say I'm a Swiftie, I am a Swiftie. I have seen her 10 times. Last tour, I flew to America. I have met her in America. She's tattooed on me. I am
Oh, God, you are.
On. So I'm sitting there with this tour announcement, sobbing my eyes out because she's coming when I'm due. And I'm sitting there going, you've got to be kidding me. Anyway. And I hadn't told, and then when the tickets went on sale, no one knew I was pregnant. So people were like, you're coming to Melbourne? I'm like, oh, no, I can't come to Melbourne this time. I just can't.
And they're all thinking, what on earth? Like,
yeah. Are you going to Sydney? Yeah, if I can get tickets, I'll go to Sydney. I struggled so hard with tickets. Like, bless my friends. It's the only way I've gotten tickets. Anyway, we're sitting in there and I'm labouring, and Mark went, you can go to that fucking Taylor Swift concert now. I went, you bet I can.
Oh.
And
it's funny the thing, because we were in the hospital and we were like, we're going overseas. We need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this instant, what can I do to make this feel...
Well, that was us too. We were like, we need to go on a holiday. We need to do something, because we hadn't planned a honeymoon, because it was get married,
have a baby.
The baby, and then we'll go on a holiday at some point. But
when is Taylor Swift? I don't even know. End of Feb?
Next 2 weeks. So I've actually ended up now getting through all my beautiful friends. I'm seeing her all 3 times in Melbourne next week. And
shut up.
I'm seeing her 3 times in Sydney the week after.
You are obsessed. I love that. Do you not get sick of hearing the same songs over and over again?
Hell no.
Were tickets like stupidly expensive?
All the tickets I have are nosebleeds. So they're not.
Oh, that's right up the top. Yeah. I was like, what does that mean?
They're nothing special, because someone did say to me, how are you affording this? I went, because my tickets are not the good tickets.
So when we went to the US, so we went to the US after Milli passed away, and again from all our friends like throwing in money and buying us flights and all the things, and we arrived in San Fran. I'm a massive fan of Pink, not as much as you are, Taylor Swift, but I do love Pink. And we arrived in San Fran, and Dylan just Googled things to do tonight in San Francisco. Yeah. And there was tickets to a Pink concert for $40. And so we got them, but we were in the nosebleed at the back, like we could see behind the scenes. It was kind of weird, but it was
That's
so
where
cool.
I'm going to be for Taylor.
Yeah, but it was like, I'm in the room, she's there, I can see it, I can hear it, it'll do.
And that was my whole thing, is I'm in the room.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters to me. But
I love that for you.
We're just like, and like now I've gotten Melbourne tickets in the last couple of days. I've just been like, and people just are messaging me going, we're so happy you're going. Like, of all people,
I'm happy for you.
You're going. And it's like, I said, well, if the universe wanted to do that, the universe can give me something else. And the universe has given me 6 Taylor Swift tickets. So,
wow.
So, yeah, that was a bit of a sidetrack, but that was then, and that was all that time. Yeah. He just kept going, you can go to your bloody Taylor concert now. I was like, you bet I can.
I love that you cried when you found out your due date, because you were like, oh, I can't go to her concert.
Like, Taylor Swift, I know you plan these things 2 years in advance, but this is just offensive. Anyway, that was fun when I then finally did tell all my friends I was pregnant, and I was like, let's say I'm not going to Melbourne. They're like, oh, okay, makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that day after Sophie was born, I just was in the hospital, and I I FaceTimed different friends, and the one I'm going to my Sydney Taylor concerts with, I FaceTimed her and was like, so you don't have to sell my ticket. I'm going to be there.
Oh, wow.
And very quickly, because Taylor's big thing at the moment is friendship bracelets. So my friends are all like, we're going to make you Sophie bracelets and we'll bring them to you at the concert.
No.
So and I made myself one that I wear every day.
Yeah.
And I made that when the day she came home from the funeral home. I made that for her for that day. So I just spent that day, they said, look, I'm sorry, you can't go home because you've had the D&C. You have to be on antibiotics for 24 hours.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, righto. They're like, look, we'll get you out as soon as we can on Friday, like as soon as possible. And they're like, your last dose of antibiotics, they're like 9 a.m. Friday. And I was like, okay. So
you were literally getting married the next day.
Yeah. So I had to cancel my lashes, and for me, my lashes are my life. So that was upsetting. I was like, I'm not going to have lashes on my wedding day.
That is devastating.
And then our friends that had an 8-week-old called Mark and said, we want to come see you. We want to bring you food. Is Annelise okay if we bring Riley? And both of us just went, please bring Riley. All we want to do right now is see Riley.
Yeah.
Because we know that some couples would be like, we don't want to see pregnant people. We don't want to see babies. We are very much like, please give us the baby.
Me too. Dylan and I are both like that too.
Yeah. And for Mark, he told me very early on he was not into newborns and holding babies. And ever since this has happened, every time we see Hayley and Jace, can I hold Riley? So yeah, but they came in and they brought slow cooked meat, and I'm loving that my hospital meal got delivered and it's sitting there, and I was like, well, I know my food's coming, so I'm just going to leave that. And then they come in with slow cooked meat, and everyone just looked at that food and went, we understand why you're not eating it. So all this slow cooked beef, like falling off the bone type of meat,
delicious,
with bread rolls and coleslaw. And then Jace had brought in like a 10-pack of wild turkeys for Mark. So, and again, because the hospital were just like, do what you want. So Mark and Jace are in there just drinking some wild turkeys.
Wow. All bets are off.
Getting tipsy on a Thursday night in the hospital room. So they stayed with us for a while. And I remember that's when I spoke to my brother for the first time after. And we just had fallen out a little bit. And it was really good to talk to him on the phone and hear my sister-in-law in the background, hear my nephew in the background and stuff like that. So I remember that night, I was like, Mark, you need to go home to the dogs, but you can't drive anymore. And he's like, they'll be fine. It's all good. And at this point, we'd finally told our neighbours. So we're like, look, if something's going on, you've got a house key, like, go check on the dogs, go check on the cats, whatever you need to. And then, so we slept that night, and then Friday morning, they were like, Mark left to do something, I think it was more wedding stuff. And, pick up the port-a-loo. That was important things we needed. Because we were getting married on our friend's paddock, we hired a port-a-loo. Because I was like, I'm going to be pregnant. I am not lugging my dress up to the house to go to the toilet. We need a port-a-loo.
Gosh, that's funny. Yeah.
So I remember at that point, he wasn't there, and I'd had another shower, and they were obviously very big on my mental health. So they were like, do you have a psychologist? And I went, yes, I do. I've been seeing him for 10 years. So I messaged his reception, which is his wife, and I just said, I need to speak to Navin very soon. I've just had a stillbirth. And I was on the phone with him within half an hour, and he said, you wouldn't believe it, my 9 a.m. cancelled.
No.
And I was like, thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember the doctors coming in that morning. The doctors didn't see me Thursday. Every time I asked where the doctor was, they said there's an emergency and they'll come soon, and they never did.
Okay.
And the doctors came in on the Friday morning, and I remember they were like, okay, so you need to do the Clexane, the blood thinner in your tummy for 6 weeks, the needles. We'll show you how to do it. And then the whole no sex, no swimming, which I found interesting, for 6 weeks. You'll come back on the 19th.
Risk of infection.
Yeah. But I'd never heard of that before. Like, it makes sense now. But, you obviously hear after birth, no sex for 6 weeks, but I'd never no one had talked about the swimming. And when I told my other friends,
I think ocean is fine. I think it's pools and anywhere of like high bacteria.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I think that would be my assumption.
And they're like, come back on the 19th of December to see an OB. We might have some results from your placenta.
Okay.
Her autopsy will take 4 to 6 months.
At a minimum.
And she went down to John Hunter Hospital in Newcastle for her autopsy, and then came back here. And then they went, we might have some results, blah, blah, blah. Already started a contraception talk, and I went, I don't want to talk about that right now. Thanks. So showed me how to do the needles, packed everything up, and then, there was pretty much time to go. And they gave us a box, and in the box is her cot card, clothes that her cot card, so it says her name and all that kind of stuff. The clothes she was in when we met her, and a little booklet, and in the booklet is her footprints and her handprints that they did for us. They said, look, the handprints aren't fantastic, her hands weren't great, but the footprints are like perfect. And there are photos of her when you're ready, because I remember them saying, do you want photos? And I kept saying, I don't think I want photos, blah, blah. In the end, they said, we took photos, they're in there, when you're ready you can look at them. So I haven't looked at them. Mark looked at one, and I remember my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law looked at them. I think Mum's looked at them too, but I haven't looked at them yet. So I'm walking out of the hospital with my suitcase, my box, and my first 2 weeks of needle injections, and I'm just standing and my compression stockings on as well. So I had to wear the compression stockings for 2 weeks. I'm just standing there, and I'm like, I still have like, a bump, not a huge bump, but it's still got a bump, and I'm just standing there like, well, this isn't fun.
No, you're like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, and Mark's like, I went to Donut King and got you a milkshake. I was like, thank you. And then he's like, what do you want to do? It's like 12 o'clock on Friday at this point. I'm like, okay, well, people are going to start getting to town tonight. So we shot up to Manila to check out the wedding venue and stuff. And our other friend said, we'll meet you there, because we were getting a wedding arc from their house. And when they went to put it together, it broke. So bless them, all before this happened, they're like, we've built you a brand new wedding arc.
Oh.
So that on top of everything as well. So everything was delivered. So we're setting up the wedding and all that kind of stuff. And I'd just sit there randomly and stare off. And I still do. But very quickly, butterflies became our thing. So we saw butterflies while we were setting up the tent and everything. And and then we came back here, and then that's when Mark's best mate arrived from Junee. So he'd driven like 7-8 hours to come up for the wedding, and they'd got a caravan. So we put the caravan in our backyard and all that kind of stuff. And then my parents arrived, so Mum had a big cry on me.
Because you hadn't seen them before then.
Hadn't seen them. And just we had the pizza and all that kind of stuff. And then Mark and I went to bed together. All that kind of like, not traditional wedding at all. And woke up the next morning. It was our wedding day, and was like, okay, so we've got to go drop the dogs off. We've got to go pick up flowers. Did all that. And then one of my friends said, you're not sitting here. What are you doing on the day? I went, hair and makeup at 3 o'clock. Getting married at 5. That's it. She went, you're not doing that. And she picked me up at 10. And we went and got my nails done, because I hadn't had them done. So I got a little butterfly on each ring finger.
Cute.
And then we went out to lunch, and then they dropped me back here, and I had about an hour to myself, and I just sat here for an hour. And my cat Melody just came and sat on my lap, and she always would crawl up on my belly, and I could see her doing it and being like, there's nothing there now, but I'm still going to sit on your belly.
Yeah.
And then the celebrant had said to us, what do you want to do? Do you want to include, how much do you want to include about the day, about Sophie and stuff? And we said, and we made it clear to everybody, we said, we will acknowledge her, we will have a drink for her, but that day is Annelise and Mark getting married. So in the wedding, she just said it has been a very, very challenging week, but it just shows how much you two are meant for each other, all that kind of stuff. My wedding vows, I talked about being parents, so she just pulled those sections out for me, so I didn't say that. And Mark being Mark only wrote
that
his
would have been so hard.
Mark being Mark only wrote his wedding vows 2 days before, so his were relevant, but he broke down a bit when he said about giving me the family that I want. And then they said when they were setting up all day, because they just told me, you turn up for the wedding, we'll work it all out. Everyone said there was butterflies all day. And I remember I had this little moment to myself walking down to the photos, and this butterfly just came and hit me right in the face.
Whoa.
So,
that just gave me goosebumps.
Pretty much
Sophie
every time
hey Mum, I'm here.
Hey,
I'm in the photos.
Every time I see a butterfly, I say, hey, Sophie. So yeah, we got married, and it wasn't like the biggest night. Like, we were kind of home by like 1 a.m. in our own bed, which was nice. And then just kind of with work and stuff, they just were like, do what you want to do. But unfortunately, my boss actually ended up leaving a few days after I gave birth. So it's been a bit of a mess. But I ended up like sitting down and deciding the plan was to be off till May. I've just decided to go back to work next month, actually. I can't see myself sitting around for another 3 months.
Did you, so you got the mat leave? You got the Centrelink? Yeah.
So I used all this work leave I could. So I had bereavement leave, annual leave, sick leave, and my boss gave me some special leave, which was really nice of her.
I mean, she was leaving anyway, so it didn't really...
Yeah, but she did it before she went, and before she left, she went, Annelise gets that leave.
Great.
So that got me to Christmas, and then I'd started my government leave in January. But I got to kind of last week and went, I don't think I can... I have to give 4 weeks notice, so I've still got another month.
Well, I think with the bereavement leave, and I want to mention this because I think it's really, really cool, obviously Australian only, but the Centrelink bereavement payment is the same as the mat leave. It's just got a different name, but you can, there's a couple of benefits. You can get yours and your partner's at the same time. So we got Dylan's his 2 weeks at the same time as my first 2 weeks. And I was allowed to go back to work and earn an income, and they still give you the bereavement leave. So you can go back to work and earn, which is so phenomenal, because with mat leave, the actual mat leave, you can't. And there is a separate bereavement line. I might even put that in the notes of this because I haven't spoken about that before. But like, I don't know if you had this, but instead of calling Centrelink, you call a bereavement line. So the person who's answering knows your story, which is... I mean, they know that you agree.
I did it all online. I remember sitting there one night, it was Monday at like 9:30, I went, I'm just going to look at the thing to do Centrelink. And I sat down and did it. And I went, all right, well, that's going to take ages to come through. I got a call the next morning confirming it.
Was this after she passed?
Yeah. And this was into December. And I just went, I was not expecting this all to be ready to go. But no, they just wanted to call to confirm something. And they went, no, everything will be paid starting the 2nd of January, and I got it, and I was like, when you look at all the stories, this was the paid parental leave, which is what I decided to do for the 18 weeks. But I was just shocked because you see all these other mums that have their babies and then are struggling to get paid. But I'm guessing when you tick a box that says stillbirth, things change a little bit. Yeah,
that still would have gone through to the bereavement team, I would imagine. But,
So, so I've just decided to go back but again, I had to give 4 weeks notice. So it's not like I've decided I'm going to go back on Monday. I have to give the 4 weeks. I've got enough going on this month anyway. And what's actually going to happen is I'm going to go back for 2 weeks, and then we were going on our honeymoon anyway. So it's kind of like, I'm going to go back, find my feet.
Test the waters,
Test the waters, see what's changed. Give myself another break, which is an 8-day cruise. And then that's Easter, and then come back to work, and then be ready to go. So we just kind of plodded along through December, and then got to the hospital on the 19th of December. And it was like my 6-week postpartum checkup, but it was only 5 weeks because of Christmas. And I remember I got in touch with my social worker. We'd seen her at some local markets up here, and I got in touch with her and she said, do you want me to come to the hospital appointment? I went, yes, I'd really love for you to be there. So I remember we walked in and, you see all the other mums sitting there and there was nowhere to sit. And I'm just standing on like this, like panicking. And then I saw Megan and I was like, I can't be here. And she went, okay. And she took us into another room. And so it didn't look like a doctor's office. It was literally like a comfort room sort of thing. And she went, I'm going to tell the doctor we're here so that you don't have to go back out there. So, and I told her, I said, look, the last time I was here, the receptionist forgot about me. I was sitting here for an hour and a half. I don't want that to happen again. Blah, blah, blah. So she was very big on every 5 minutes going out saying, how much longer? Where's the doctor? She needs to see the doctor. Don't forget about her. So the doctor, OB came in and she apologised profusely for being 25 minutes late. I'm like, it's okay. It's all good. And she just sat down and she said, just tell me a little bit from your end and all that kind of stuff. And what happened with your kidneys and when was the last time you felt her and all that kind of stuff. So what happened with my kidneys is I went to that kidney specialist still, which was 12 days after she was born. And he didn't know, so he walks in, he's like, so you're pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I'd had some blood done the day before. So I don't know what this level was, but pretty much your kidney level for something, it's supposed to be 3. The day before I gave birth, mine was 24.
Fuck.
And 2 weeks later, it had gone down to 9. So my body had started returning back to normal as soon as the pregnancy ended. And the OB just said the placenta was not good. It was not good. It was poisoning you. It was poisoning her. It was full of blood clots. And it just never formed properly. So it's formed, but right at that conception stage, when the placenta forms, it's not formed as it should.
Okay.
But obviously, it's formed enough to keep my baby alive.
They did pick up on it.
Weeks.
Yeah, it
so
picked up on it at that 20-week scan, but not
so
quite. They just said
they picked up the 2 vessels because you're supposed to have 3 vessels in your placenta, and I only had 2, so it meant reduced nutrients to Sophie.
Okay.
And I said to her, and I'm crying at this point, and I just said, could this have been picked up at 12 weeks? And she went, it could have. And I don't know if they could have done anything at 12 weeks, but I could have made a different decision at 12 weeks. If you know what I mean. Which I would have rather done that than going through giving birth. So that's very interesting now. And I remember my best friend, the one that's due next month, she just said, you should come to Sydney to have your baby. You need to come to a big city. And I said, if they tell me to, I will. Especially if they told me to go to Newcastle, that's fine. That's only 3 hours away. And she just said to me, she said, I'm your OB now. I have my own sonographer. I have my own midwife. You will see me the whole time you're pregnant next time.
Yay.
And she's like, here's the plan. Get your kidneys cleared. Okay. Once your kidneys are cleared, we're happy for you to start trying.
Okay.
So that was... so I had my kidneys and stuff tested 2nd week of January, and I got a text from that specialist saying, your kidneys are all good. You're welcome to start trying.
Great. So it was just, it was your body reacting to the placenta.
Yeah. And
far out.
Obviously my body's then trying to protect me. So it's like, what do? We've got to stop the pregnancy to protect her.
Shit.
So they've said for next time, as soon as I get 2 lines, like, the moment I get 2 lines, GP, straight onto aspirin and on the blood thinners again.
Okay.
Have my dating scan at 7 weeks and into the hospital by 10 weeks with that OB. So all over the place. They've said it'll be with her. Yeah. I've been on the folate, almost 2 months now, to get that in my system as well.
Were you on that before?
Not until I got pregnant. The GP, again, we had, moving here, the one downfall to living here has been the healthcare system. GPs with open books are very hard to find. And the hospital, like my hospital experience giving birth was amazing, but I know that it is very special and niche as to why it was amazing, because it was a certain situation I was going through. So I don't know if I'm going to get that next time I give birth.
It sounds like with this OB,
and I think they should hopefully just be aware of it all. And so we'll see what happens. We're welcome to start trying, which we're trying what we're not trying.
Yeah.
Which I think people would expect. So, that's pretty much Sophie's story. I suppose this month's obviously pretty hard because I think I would have had it by now. I think I would have. So I would have been 39 weeks at the moment, but the way they were talking, I probably would have had her at 36, 37 weeks.
Okay.
So
because of that placenta?
Because of the placenta, because they said her growth is going to start being impacted towards the end.
So are you at high, I don't know if you just said this, are you at higher risk of this happening again, or it was just...
They can't guarantee it. Yeah, they can't guarantee it's not going to happen again, but going on the aspirin and the blood thinners, they said we have a good chance of it not happening again.
And they'll be able to check the placenta straight away at 12 weeks and make sure it's growing properly.
I feel like I'm going to be a high-risk pregnancy that's having scans every 4 weeks probably, and that's probably what I would be wanting. I think that's... And I hope that's what happens.
And the kidney thing, is this a common... I've not heard of that, like mum's kidney shutting down. Yeah.
I haven't really found much about it. They just said that... I remember the OB just sitting there and she held my hand and she said, "You were gravely ill." And we just didn't know. And that's obviously something scary when you look back at it, that I was ill. And that's scary.
Wow.
But I thought,
and because they do always say that mum comes first, which for us as the people wanting to become mums, we're like, no, my baby comes first. But you know, if in a hospital emergency there is a mum and a pregnant woman, saving the mother is always the first thing they'll do.
But it's interesting looking back, because everyone kept telling me you're not sick, you'll feel better soon. You just got to get over this period and you'll get over the sickness. And
I was told the same thing, and I'm like, 39 weeks later, I'm still vomiting.
And I'm like, and now when I go back and tell people, hey, I was actually really crook. And they're like, oh yeah, we totally, we could see it. You looked sick. And I was like, but you didn't say that in the moment.
Why didn't anyone tell me that? Yeah.
So it's interesting looking back, but we've already talked about next time and how we don't really, like I've already said to my mum, I said, sorry, you won't be finding out the moment it happens. I won't be telling anyone until I know things are going okay.
Yeah.
We'll just see what happens now,
scary.
I suppose.
It's scary, but the beautiful thing is we have a massive community because, obviously I haven't experienced pregnancy after the loss yet. I mean, I thought we had a miscarriage and some chemical pregnancies before Milli, and so I thought I'd experienced pregnancy after loss, but the next pregnancy is going to be after the real loss. So it's... And
I'm having anxiety for my friends who... I have one who's just ticked over 27 weeks and she was in hospital 2 nights ago. And we both, every time I say so-and-so's in hospital, Mark just looks at me and goes, is she okay? Is the baby okay?
I know, we do the same.
Like, and even one of the other friends I'm driving to Sydney for their baby shower, and I remember her saying this weekend, and she said, if you don't want to come, you don't have to. I said, I'm going to be there for you. I think some people would expect. And I think as well, I personally have changed a lot in the last 3 years since I met Mark, and my personality is a lot stronger. If this had happened to me 10 years ago with someone else, I probably would still be in bed 3 months later. His impact on my life is unbelievable, and I am so much stronger. And I stand up for myself a lot more now, and I don't of course I still crumble. That's my personality, I'll tell you that, but I don't crumble as much.
Oh, I love that.
So I think a lot of people are surprised at how strong I am and how I don't give myself credit for it, which I mean, I look back and go, you did a 12-hour labor and only got pain relief in the last 2 hours. Like, and I do go like, holy shit, I did do that.
And you were sick. Like, you were a sick woman birthing a baby that had died. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah. Which is, so.
And so did you guys, did you have a funeral for Sophie?
No.
No.
I wanted to, and I think I wanted to more for other people more than me. And I remember talking to my psychologist about that, and he said, you need to do what you want to do. Don't do it for other people. Because I had people go, if you do something, we're in the car, we're coming.
Yeah.
But because we didn't get her back till mid-December, we just decided, we because we physically, we didn't get her until mid-December, and we just went, if we're going to do a funeral, it's going to have to be in January. We don't want to take this into the new year.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a fresh start this year, so we decided to not. But what I did was, when she was home, I put her she sits with a photo of Mark and I, and this little beautiful porcelain thing of a mother holding a baby. And I posted a photo of that with a candle, and I said, Sophie is home. We won't be doing anything further. I'd love if you light a candle and share it with us. And my whole comment section on Facebook was full of friends lighting candles and family.
That's good.
And then on Instagram, I had friends like post it to their stories and that kind of stuff. So,
that's so lovely.
Yeah, that's my little, that was our little way of involving everybody to say.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, she sits, and you see her when you wake up every morning, she's on the hall table. And when we move and we've got somewhere bigger, I don't want a full on memorial, but I just want a nice place for her and her little things. Like, our friends got us a bear that says, so her middle name is Marion, after my grandmother. So it says Sophie Marion. I think it says like, carried for a moment, loved for a lifetime.
Cute.
With her birthday on it. And then for my birthday, which was 2 weeks ago, Mark got me her birthstone ring and a necklace with butterflies as well. So, and then we've already we want to get tattoos of her footprint, and because I just saw your tattoo, which was epic, and so we want to get a tattoo of her footprint with some sort of butterfly. So we're just trying to decide that too, and
so beautiful.
Yeah. So now you it'll be all right. That's Mark's attitude and everything. She'll be right. It'll be right, mate. He calls me mate. We are in a loving relationship, but I'm mate.
Yeah, Dylan calls me bro, mate, all sorts of things. Bro.
Boys, I swear.
I know.
So yeah, so that's Sophie and my story, and that's pretty much it.
What a wild time, hey?
Oh, I can't. It's the whole year, and even that, it was like I literally had births, deaths, and marriages in 10-day period.
Totally.
I totally did.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
And time was moving so slow, but also so fast. Like, in my head, I'm like, how's it almost 3 months? But also, wasn't it just yesterday?
I know. I feel the same. I'm like, 6 months feels like it's half a year. It's flown by, but also, where the fuck has it gone?
Yeah.
Like, it is the weirdest feeling. And I know when everything happened with us, obviously having the cesarean, we're not allowed to fall pregnant for 12 months. And I remember when the OB told me, I said, don't tell me 12 months. And he said, I'm so sorry, it's 12 months. I'm like, that is a lifetime.
That's
but
horrible.
Already it's almost 7, you know, and it is shit. It's still shit, but time is flying.
Oh, so and for me, they said, you because you've had a D&C as well, and you're very fertile after giving birth, let alone as well as a D&C. They're like, you are going to be fertile, but I'm not pinning my hopes on that. My period came back in the middle of my postpartum bleeding, so I've already gone straight back in to my normal cycle. It's just a little bit different, but it is quite like, it's shitty when you're like, I'm having my period. I'm like, I shouldn't be having a period right now.
Yeah, I know. All that postpartum stuff, like your milk coming in. We saw boobs. Yours didn't.
I remember right before we left and they went, "Are you feeling anything regarding milk?" I went, "Nothing," and nothing ever came in, thankfully.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I didn't have to.
I pumped for like the week that we were in hospital, and then obviously I stopped the day she died. And mine, I didn't get mastitis or anything, which was so good.
No, I was very grateful that I didn't have that, didn't have tearing. Just physically, I was very lucky to just keep living in a way. Just had to wear compression stockings was the only thing really that I had to do for 2 weeks afterwards. Otherwise, everything kind of just was back to life. So, but it's not normal.
No, it's not normal. I love some of the things you said about things that people did for you. So obviously getting your Swifty tickets is amazing. I love that the bereavement midwife just seemed like she was backing you so much. Like she just had so many things, even just like showing you that urn straight away. Like we are only just getting an urn coming for Milli like this week, which is a girl on Instagram who makes them for free for bereaved parents.
Yeah.
But I just didn't even think of that. I love that your neighbours jumped the fence to feed the dogs. Like just all those kinds of things that people wouldn't think of, but you just got to jump in and do it. You know, your friends turning up with food and slow cooked meat and wild turkeys or whatever.
Slow cooked meat and wild turkeys is how I like it.
So country. I love it.
Yeah, very.
I love it. I'm so sorry you experienced it. It's just so awful, and it sounds like your anxiety was telling you the whole time that something was wrong, like your mother's instinct knew by the sounds of it.
It'll be interesting this time when I fall pregnant and working. I'll just be fighting for myself a lot more this time to be like, please help with some flexibility or something along those lines, just to make me a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and I think
it'll just be interesting to see how everyone reacts in general. What the hospital says, what the doctors say.
Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Well, I mean, for sure, 1, they're going to know your story. 2, you're going to be high risk. But 3, you know more now, which it sucks when we have to go through these things to then learn. But you will know to go for the scans, ask certain questions and all of those kinds of things. And I'm praying for you as well as me that we don't have an anterior placenta next time, because that just adds a whole element of a head fuck.
I was like, I'm sitting, I haven't felt anything in like 24 weeks. I'm just feeling a little fluttered. Oh, actually, your placenta's at the front. I'm like, okay, got it.
I know. But you know what else I learned? And so obviously now you didn't know at that point, but Sophie was unwell and not growing. Yep. Milli was not moving. So I was reassured that it was normal because of my placenta. But anyone you speak to with an anterior placenta is still like, oh, I still felt them though. So
yeah, exactly.
You get reassured that that's why, but that's not normal. You still should have felt her if she was healthy and growing.
Exactly.
Same with Milli. Exactly. If Milli was healthy, I should have felt her. So yeah.
Exactly.
But we learn, right?
We've learned. For next time, because there will be a next time.
Absolutely, there will, and I'm excited for it. I'm here for all the babies.
Totally.
I'm here for all the good news. Well, I can't wait to see a photo of little Sophie's feet on you and Mark, and I can't wait to hear stories and see your Swifty updates.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a massive. It's going to be a massive 2 weeks. But anyway, the rest of my afternoon is making more bracelets. So because that's a nice calming activity. I just kind of sit here, got my music going, and just
be creative.
Get ready for, because this Swift experiences, I can't describe it. It's just, Mark's like, I don't have anything that feels like the way you feel when you go to Taylor Swift. I'm like, it's just the best feeling ever.
Yeah, no, I can't say I have that either.
I haven't, our friend, like our community is spread out all over the country, and there are people I haven't seen for 5 years, and we've also just had a death in our Swiftie community, so we're all coming together around that as well. And so it's also that
there's a community of you.
Oh yeah, huge. I've got 2 group chats alone with different people in different parts of the country. And yeah, one of the group chats, I don't think we've ever all been in one room, and then the other group chat, we can't all be in one room because one lives in England. So
how is this a thing?
But
I'm blown away.
Just,
but I'm also, I admire you. I love that.
So, yeah.
That's phenomenal. So have the best time.
Thank you.
And
I will be thoroughly enjoying it, considering I was not going to be there. I'm going to soak up every second.
I know.
And Taylor has a lot of butterflies and stuff around too, so that's always
that's awesome.
Little connection.
A little reminder.
When you see a butterfly, it's Sophie in my eyes.
Okay. I will be sure to remember that. I love it. I truly think that we get sent signs from each other's babies too. Yeah.
Totally.
Sophie and Milli are upstairs like dancing right now that we're even chatting.
Exactly. To Pink and Taylor.
Definitely. All right, my lovely. Thank you so much for being so brave and sharing your story. Sending you lots of love.
And thank you for making this community, because when I was going through it, I didn't know where I could listen. And I had a friend who's pregnant now who sent me your profile. And it's just been great to listen to other stories, but that understand what we're going through.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
When some people say, yes, I had a miscarriage at 6 weeks, I understand what you're going through. Sometimes I'm like,
no.
There's only very few people that I can speak to that I know what I feel.
Yeah.
So
and when you've had chemical pregnancies and I've had miscarriages, and I don't underplay. I said it on my social media the other day. When Dylan and I start trying again, if we have miscarriages, I will be devastated. Of course, that they suck. But birthing your child who dies is not the same. It's fucking awful, and no one will ever experience that same pain.
No, especially you feel it pop out. Like for me, I felt pop out and no cry. That was the worst bit. But,
yeah, it's wild. How did your friend who's pregnant now know about my profile?
She sent it to me on Instagram, so I'm not sure how she came across it. She is a nurse, but she just said, "I found this, and I think you should have a look at it." And she's got a podcast, and I told her I was recording, and she said, "I'll listen to your episode," and things like that. So I'm not sure how she came across it, but she sent it to me. I think I also remember messaging them, being like, I was doing things like registering her death, and I was like, do you want to hear about this? And they both called me and just went, yes, you talk to us. It's okay. If we're not comfortable or something, we'll tell you. But I'm being very upfront and saying, if you don't want to hear these things, please just let me know. And I won't communicate them to you. But it's something I'm going through, like registering her death.
I know, it's wild. And I think that's why I shared so much on social media, because then I was like, well, if people don't want to hear about it, they can either unfollow me or just not look at my stuff. And I've had friends say to me, I just scroll past your things. And that's so fine, because they just can't, like, I have a lot of friends who, and I call it survivor's guilt. Like, they have babies and their guilt that they do and I don't is wild. And I really do feel that from a select few of them. But, like,
even I don't know if you've seen it, there's, those tap in things you can do on Instagram at the moment. It's like, show us when you were 21 and tap in, post a photo. There's one going around, it's a template, and it says, calling all mamas, tell us your birth story things. And it's like baby's name, birth date, due date, all these type of things. And I went, you know what? I'm still going to do it, because I had a kid.
Absolutely.
I'm still a mum. So when it said, how old are they now? I said, she's been sleeping for 3 months. So, because I still wanted to share that, no, I didn't have an epidural. Yes, Dad was in the room, like all that type of stuff. And I posted it and I went, this is not normal, but I am tapping into this. And I had people message me saying, you totally should be doing this. You are a mum.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why when you guys were saying about your wedding vows before, and that you took the part about being parents out, and probably because you'd be too emotional to even speak those words. Yeah. But you are absolutely both parents, and you're a mum, and Mark is a dad, and Sophie's your firstborn always.
Exactly. And we'll always tell everyone about Sophie. And
I love that. Send me a photo of her little feet. I want to see them.
Yes, I will. I'll find a photo.
All right, lovely. It's been so nice chatting to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, you haven't gone through her photos. Please don't do that if you're not ready.
Oh no,
for that.
they're in separate sections. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just realised
they're like hidden so that I don't have to look at them until I turn them over. So they're all they're in separate.
I'm excited.
Sections, which is
I'm
good.
excited for the day that you do that.
Yeah, me too.
You will eventually.
All right. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Annelise. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Little Life, Big Loss. If you are here because you've experienced baby loss recently or a long time ago, I am so sorry. If you have never experienced the loss of a baby, but you are here to learn, thank you. If you are here because you have just had the news that you have to make some really tough decisions, I am so sorry. I hope these podcasts give you the help and the guidance that you need. If any of today's conversation has triggered any uneasy emotions for you, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or lifeline.org. Another organisation working specifically with pre- and postnatal depression and anxiety is PANDA, PANDA. You can find them at panda.org.au. And remember that postnatal depression and anxiety does not discriminate. It can affect both men and women, mums and dads. Please seek help from your GP, psychologist, your local hospital, a midwife, OB, Lifeline or PANDA. I love you and I miss you, my Milli.